Hey everyone, my name is Razzmel and welcome back. I bring you some more Guild Wars 2 PvP guides. So after going over all these different abstract ideas about metas and conquest and game modes and, guidelines and strategies and farpoint capping and things like that, I thought, well, let's just go back to the basics and start talking about actual builds and things about the different classes. So what I want to do with the next couple weeks, or several weeks, or however long it takes me, is go over all the different meta builds for each of the classes. Now obviously, this is a big disclaimer, I'm not a guru of everything Guild Wars 2 PvP, I don't claim to be, I don't claim either to know everything about everything in PvP, I'm just a person with a lot of, I just have a lot of knowledge about PvP. I mean, I'm not gonna lie about that. I've played it for a long time. I play with some very great people, some very good people, and I know a lot. So I just want to kind of lay this knowledge out here, and you can take it for what it is to you. Just, don't take everything too literally. You can always, I'm not the only source of knowledge for PvP, so just we're just gonna go along this ride and see what happens. So I'd like to say that I'm not an expert at every single class in the game. I only know the general ideas behind each of them. I know how to play them, basically how they work, what the builds do, how they work as well. My mains are Guardian and Ellie, so I know how to play those really well. So those are the first two I'm gonna go over. And that's just to kind of help me as well, because this is the first time I've done videos like this, so I'm also kind of experimenting with different ways that the videos go, so bear with me. So to kind of overview what we're gonna go over the traits, we're gonna go over the different PvP build aspects, so the weapons, sigils, runes, and amulets and stuff like that. Also go over utility skills, and why we use certain weapons with the different builds as well. Also at the end, I'll kind of give a little spiel about kind of some different ways to use your abilities efficiently and things like that. So to start off, we'll go over Guardian. Obviously, you see my Guardian right here. This is the first class we're going to be going over today. I'll be just going over the general baseline builds. And really, there's only one for Guardian right now. There's different versions of it, but it's still all the same kind of, really just all the same. And what we should call it, we call it Meditation Garden. We'll be going over that, why it's called that in a bit. I'll be going over the traits here on the right and the PvP build stuff on the left. So the first thing I like to go over the traits because they're very easy to understand and why we use them. It's not very hard to explain why we use them. When I talk about traits in any way, I'll be talking in numbers and those numbers, the 2, 1, 6, 1, 4, those how many points are put into the trait lines. So if you ever see someone going around saying, oh, I run this 2, 4, 6, 1, 2, whatever build, that's what they mean. They mean points placed into the trait lines. Now to start off, I'll be going over the Zeal trait line, and I'll go over each different trait line and kind of talk a little bit about the different traits and why we use them, even though they're kind of very blatant in their use. So in the Zeal trait line, we start with 2 points in Zeal, and we're not worried too much about the little trait, but the Fiery Wrath trait is very important. Well, not super important, but it is important because it's just a basic damage increase against burning foes, and Guardian's all about that burning, so if the Guardian's attacking it, it's probably on fire, so that's just a nice little damage boost. Nothing really else you can put in here, because nothing else can really work with the damage build. You could go into Zealous Blade, but that's really just a tiny amount of healing. It's not really that much, and it's only a 5% increase on the Greatsword damage. In the Radiance trait line, we have the 1 point, but it's one of the most important points we place in it because it gives our F1 skill, or in my case, my middle mouse button skill, our Virtue of Justice, a blind. And this is very important because blind is one of our defensive conditions. It helps us out a lot because we have a lot of different blinding sources, and having a 1 on command is very nice because we can just kind of avoid big hitting skills like, say, a Warrior's Eviscerate, or a Backstab from a Thief, or maybe something. It's really hard to do with Mesmer because they have so many different things attacking us, but yeah, you get the gist of it. Now onto the Valor trait line. We put all 6 points into here because it is it is what makes Mediguard. It what makes this build what it is, and it works all around a particular type of utility skill called Meditations, and we'll go over those in a little bit. And the first one we take what's called Meditation Mastery. It just says, reduces recharge and meditations by 20%, and that's very important for what's coming up later on. These middle ones aren't as important, they're just kind of there. They're kind of the minor things, so don't worry too much about them. Focused Mind is our next one in our Master trait line, which is Meditations Grand Fury. Now, something that a lot of people don't understand about this skill is it just doesn't give fury to you, it gives fury to everyone, so you're also benefiting everyone else by using it. And also, again, it says meditations, so meditations are a big thing about meditation guard. Who would have thought? And so the last skill, which is the most important skill in this build, is Monk's Focus, and it says using meditation skill heals you. And I round things up, so that's about a 2000 health healing for all the skills that you're using, and that's applied to every meditation skill that you have. So whenever you use a meditation skill, you get a bunch of health. This valor trait line is very important. You really can't run meditation, well, obviously you can't really run meditation guard without these medi skills. So it's very important to understand that, those are what you need. You can't run much anything else in this trait line because everything else is kind of just meh. You could do some of the things you were trying to run more tanky setup with the strength of numbers, something like that, but really it's all about the meditations. Now move on to the honor trait line. Just a little thing. It's just a kind of bonus defensive cooldown. Vigorous precision. When you critically hit someone, you gain some vigor, so that's more dodges for you on top of some other things that we'll have later on that we'll go over. And it's just more defense. It's kind of like the blinding thing. It's kind of, you just kind of have to have those two things because they're very key to being a damage class. And then lastly is the virtue trait line. This trait line is very flexible. You don't have to put traits into this trait line, but general Mediguard build does use these two traits, or you could use something else besides the first one, but you can always move these traits around if you want. The first one is called Unscathed Contender. Now, a lot of people don't like to use this because our Aegis doesn't last for very long. If something randomly hits us, then, well, that 20% damage modifier is going away. But not a lot of people know that that is really a big bonus for your opening burst attack. And so, in a gameplay video that I'll be making later on, you'll get to see a lot of insta bursts that the Guardian can do with certain skills, especially with teleporting, that are modified even more with this trait. It's actually a very strong trait if you think about it. Again, you could take something else like Vengeful if you wanted to for more retaliation, but really out of these minor traits you're not getting much else. And so the last one here is Absolute Resolution. Again, nothing else you really take, but it's probably the best one out of the bunch because it's a Condi Cleanse. And not only is it a Condi Cleanse for yourself, it Condi Cleanse for everyone around you, so all your allies are getting conditions removed. And this is off of your Virtue of Resolve, so it's also affected by your elite skill, which we'll go over in a little bit. And it kind of increases the heal, the passive heal that it has, which is kind of just like icing on the cake, I guess. So that's all of the traits for Mediguard. And like I said before, you can change these traits around. I've seen some different builds in the past. Really the most important part is that 6 in Valor because it gives you all those meditation bonuses. I've in the past run 2-2-6-2-2 for some extra healing and some boon rip if you want to. I've seen people go 0-1-6-6-2, or I think it's 1. I'm not good at math, so I'm in calculus, I'm not good at math. Really, it's just that main part, Valor, is what you need to keep for the meditation guard. You can always just kind of move things around to your liking. So I don't try to think that when I'm talking about these builds, you have to stick with it. These are just things that you can try out and practice, and then later on change them if you want to. So the next thing we're going to go over is the PvP build. So our weapons, our sigils, and our rune, and our amulet. Our amulet, obviously, is Zerker amulet because we're going super damage, and it's Berserker because Assassin sucks. Assassin's has more precision, and that's about it. And more ferocity. So you're kind of exchanging health for more damage, which isn't always the best case because Mediguard is, even though it's a heavy armor class and you have more toughness than, say, an Ellie running a Zerker amulet or a Thief running a Zerker amulet, you're still very susceptible because your health pool is super low. Out of all the heavy armor classes so far, Guardian has the smallest and actually could be almost as small as a Thief at some point. So it's very important to have that health boost. Without the Zerker amulet, you're kind of vulnerable because you're down to, like, if you move it to, say, a rabbit amulet, you're down to 11,000. So that's very important to keep that that vitality boost. Our rune is Rune of the Pack. I use this rune. I've been using this rune for forever. I used it before it was cool. It's not that cool anymore. People are exchanging some of them. A lot of people still use Pack. Some people use Vampirism now, which is, obviously your choice, but I use Pack because swiftness duration is nice, and the boons that you get from it are very nice. Might, Fury, and Swiftness, and it gives you a ton of precision and power. So you can also use Ogres, which is another good suggestion, because it's just a blatant upgrade in power or damage overall. It gives you that plus 4% damage increase and an increase in ferocity. Also gives you that rock dog, which is really nice because, you know, if it's someone's downed and that rock dog's bugging them, they can't heal. Our sigils, and I'll talk about the sigils alongside the weapons because it depends on what weapon I'm using that I pick a sigil. So I'm running Greatsword, Scepter, Focus here. Now I'm going to talk about Scepter Focus for a minute because there's still a lot of debate whether Sword and Scepter are better, or which one is better between the two. You can use Sword if you really want to. Sword is a much more fun weapon because it has a great auto attack and it has a teleport. The number 3 is fun to use, it just never hits anything, unfortunately. If they strafe even a little bit, then the number 3 hit doesn't really do anything. But still, it is unfortunately susceptible to kiting because well, you have 2 melee weapons, and everyone has a ranged weapon pretty much, and one melee weapon and 1 ranged weapon, and so Guardian kind of needs that. So if you're running 2 melee weapons, you're kind of in the pool of pure melee, which is okay. Unfortunately, the game doesn't cater to the pure melee classes, and so having a ranged option is really nice. And overall, Scepter is kind of really superior. It has an Immobilize, which the Guardian doesn't have a lot of CC at all. It has a pull on the Greatsword, and it has an Immobilize on the Scepter, so having that extra Immobilize is really nice. And the number 2 on the Scepter is okay. It actually deals some decent damage to someone if you place it properly. It's also nice because you can place it behind you without turning around, so you can place it wherever you want. So it's nice to placing if you're like fighting a thief or something, or someone is coming behind you, and you can just throw it back there to give them some damage, bug them a bit. The auto attack also hits a lot. Unfortunately, it's very slow, but it usually hits most of the time. The only thing about Scepter is that it's really boring, and that's the only reason I don't like it. But I use it because it is much better than Sword, and I have practiced many times with both weapons, and I've found that Scepter is just much better. I will talk about Focus in a bit. Greatsword. I use Greatsword because well, Greatsword is awesome. It's really cool, it's really fun, and it does a lot of damage. It's just pure damage. The only thing that's kind of beneficial besides damage is your Binding Blades, which is number 5, which you spin around, you throw out these blades to everyone that hits them. If they hit, they're lashed on, and you can activate the skill again to pull them into you. And so it's kind of an interrupt, a pull. You can do a lot of things with it. If you can time it properly, which never really happens. It's kind of a weird, long animation, and people can really see it. So it's most of the time evaded half the time, but still it's pretty cool. And again, Greatsword is just amazing. Don't scoff at its auto attacks. They hit really hard. If you just swing in the damn thing, just hits for 3k most of the time on random autos. So it's really nice. With the Greatsword, I usually run Air Energy because energy is really good. Alongside your vigor, you're going to have that nice little boost of endurance in case you really need a dodge or something like that. Energy Sigil is kind of really just overpowered in a sense because it just gives you so much energy return. If you see in an Ellie, Dagger Ellie, you see that they're just abusing that thing to the max. That sigil was made for them. And in some, hopefully the Revenant doesn't turn into that either. I hope not. Cross my fingers, but we'll see. But yeah, energy is really good. You can always switch out energy for fire if you really just want to go pure, just like damage. You don't really care about the endurance if you're really confident in your dodging. I'm not always confident in it, but I always like to have that extra one because I know I like having dodges. So, and on the other set, I just basically run air fire. Nothing really else needs to go on these sets because Mediguard doesn't need anything else. You could say, oh, run a Doom Sigil, so you get some poison. Well, if you're blowing things up instantly, you don't really need the Doom Sigil, right? And lastly but not least, the Focus, which is probably one of the best weapons we have besides Greatsword and Scepter. It gives you a block that blocks 3 things and is destroyed. But if it isn't blocked, it just blows up and deals a bajillion damage. That's part of my burst combo that I do most of the time, and I'll probably demonstrate at the end of the video how that happens. You can open with that skill, it's so nice. You could argue that opening it up with is kind of risky because you're just getting rid of that block, but if you're in a team fight, those blocks go really fast, and you know, it's just kind of like Aegis where it just kind of gets destroyed. And the number 4 skill on it's very good too. It's a blind, but it also is a condy removal. Every time it bounces onto you, a condition is removed, and you gain regeneration. So it's overall a real rounded offhand. So what have we gone over so far? We've gone over the traits, we've gone over the PvP build stuff, the weapons, the sigils, the runes, and the amulet. So what's last but not least is the utility skills. Our heal, our 3 utilities, and our elite skill. Healing skills, I argue with a lot of people about which one's best. I don't know why it's an argument because Shelter is obviously the best one. I mean, if you think about it, the Signet is really good. It has Condi Cleanse. it has a huge heal, but unfortunately there's so much different types of daze and interrupt nowadays. It's just daze nowadays. It's just not conceivable to have such a long casting time for a heal, especially with mesmers coming, being more popular, and thieves with headshot and dazing with their steel. It just isn't efficient, or even sometimes that great effective to use such a long casting heal to heal yourself. Whereas Shelter, yes, it is susceptible to some unblockable things, but having that 2-second block is just like, I can heal for free. It doesn't matter what you do to me, I can heal. So our 3 utility skills, and these are our bread and butter meditation skills that we were talking about earlier that synergize with our traits. The first one is Judge's Intervention. It teleports you to your target instantly and burns them, and with the obviously with the traits, it heals you and gives you burning, fury, burning and fury, same thing. Break stun, and it has a really long range. This is like a really good opener. I open with this a lot. And when I say opener, I mean it's where your initial attack onto someone. You might say, oh, but you should use it to, break your stuns or whatever. Yeah, but it's on a 36-second cooldown that's pretty short in a fight. In a fight, that cooldown goes really fast. You just never notice it. So it's a really nice initiation onto someone. The second one I run is, or what everyone runs really, is Smite Condition. This is your kind of overall like best medis, I guess, because it only cures one condition, but it damages people, and that damage is increased to double if you remove a condition. So this thing can hit for a huge amount, randomly in an AoE circle. And so it's a really nice, just random damage. And the last one, and probably one of our best ones, Contemplation of Purity, converts conditions you are suffering into boons. So it takes all of your conditions, not a certain select amount, every condition on you, converts them all into boons. So if a necro comes onto you and just heaps conditions onto you, just like, oh, Contemplation of Purity, and you've got all these nice boons on you. No necros are really running corrupt boon anymore, so you don't have to really worry about that. But if they are, you should look out for that. If you notice that your conditions are being converted back, or your boons are being converted back into conditions, you should try to plan for that and make sure that they kind of use it on some random condition boons, and just then be able to save that for something else. It's also a stun break, so also use that for that case. And our elite skill, Mediguard's best elite skill, Renewed Focus, makes you vulnerable for 2 seconds and heals you, obviously, because it's a meditation now. I was turned into a meditation, I think last year, can't remember, but now it's a meditation, and it has a shorter cooldown now, so you can be invulnerable for even more often nowadays. It also resets your virtues, which I'll cover in a second, because virtues are very important to the Guardian itself. That's all the utility skills. Shelter, Judge's Intervention, Spike Conditioning, Contemplation, Purity, and Renewed Focus. One extra thing about the elite skills, don't bring a tome. Don't think that the tomes, and I'm not going to talk too much about them because it's just a really big subject to talk about. Tomes are just not that great for Mediguard. Don't think that you can bring the Tome of Wrath and be like a Lich form. You're not. It doesn't deal that much damage. It's a worser version of the Lich form. The attacks are very big, they can be avoided very easily, and overall it's just not that great. Also, it's on a really long cooldown, and that's not what Mediguard's all about. These shorter cooldowns with big impact. And so, the last thing I want to go over just shortly and briefly are the virtues, because, I mean, if you played Guardian, you know what the virtues do, but how do you use the virtues? What do you use them for? A lot of the times, and this makes me very frustrated, is when I see a Guardian go into a fight and they just pop all of them. When I say pop, they just use all of them all at once, right at the beginning of the fight, or just in the middle of the fight, just use all of them. I keep saying pop, 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 when they use all of them at the same time. And that kind of infuriates me because there's so much more you can do with them. Your virtue of Justice, which is your F1, or if you change it, whatever key you've binded it to, is not only a burning or things like that, it's a blind. It's a blind that is so useful, and it can save your life in a sticky situation. Say that warrior is coming at you, he's about to eviscerate you, he's stunned you, and while you're stunned, you can use this skill while you're stunned, and he's about to hit the eviscerate, and you blind him, and it doesn't hit you. You're saved, and he's used all of his adrenaline, and now he has to work all the way back up to getting the adrenaline. That's what makes Mediguard so powerful. It has so many different defensive abilities that just make it so strong, and that's one of the ways. Using your defensive ability cooldowns properly will make you a much better Mediguard. And also goes with the virtue of courage, the Aegis, popping that Aegis up and using it to like avoid an attack. Again, same scenario with the Eviscerate. You could use that instead if your Virtue of Justice is down. Don't worry about the long cooldowns on them, because again, your Renewed Focus can reset all of these. So if you really need them, just use Renewed Focus, and you have them all back. Alright guys, that's pretty much everything covered. I went really fast because I mean, when I talk like this is the first time trying to explain everything in one go, and I'm recording directly with this video, so it's very much a bit more stressful. The more I do these videos, the better it'll get, so just bear with me as I come out with them. I hope I just covered everything. If you feel like you have questions, or if you think that I have said anything, said anything that isn't correct, or want to talk, argue over something, just put it in the comments below. Also, I put my one of my characters' names in the description below. You can message me in game when I'm online, or friend me, follow me, whatever. Just message me and say, hey, yo, I had a question about this, or I think that you did this wrong, or I think that you explained this in a improper way. You should probably do this, or whatever. And then if there's any corrections I need to make, I can always put them at the beginning of the next video. Also, there'll be annotations on the screen. Follow them. They'll be going to the other Guild Wars 2 guide videos that I have up, and also there'll probably be one extra one that's like for a funny video that I did in the past. I'll be doing more funny videos like those in the future, just kind of focusing on these ones because I really want to do these. I think these are really important. And for any new players, especially if I'm going way too fast, do say so. I might be going super fast because my brain is moving at a million miles an hour while I talk, and I want to get much information out as possible. So just say, yo, Raz, slow down here a bit, kind of slow it down. I need to know, cover this a bit slower. So I'll just let me know. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. Gets me up there. Gets these videos out to more people. Hit that subscribe button if you want to see more videos in the future. I'll be doing more class videos like this in the next few weeks. And again, I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!